I don't know where exactly the idea came from or how it got started, but a few years ago there was a thing going around about how all of the different color Skittles tasted the same. It didn't matter what the bag was, it didn't matter what the flavor descriptor said on the back of the bag. The narrative was they all tasted exactly the same. And so many people heard this and accepted it as fact. They tried to argue this thing, saying that all of the Skittles were the same exact flavor. Your mind just tricked you into thinking that they were a different thing. These people had gone their whole entire lives having a favorite flavor of Skittles. Some like the red, some like the green, some the yellow, whatever other fucking colors. They had a favorite type of bag, whether it was the regular red one or the purple bag. I know there was a yellow bag for a while. I don't know if it still is. Doesn't really fucking matter. Anyways, some people didn't like the purple. I didn't really care for the purple myself, but they had spent their whole entire life, their whole entire childhood, thinking that Skittles were different, unique, individual flavors. And then one day they read online, they saw a Instagram video or maybe a TikTok video that said all of the Skittles tasted the same. And all of a sudden, this now became their reality. They threw aside everything that they know, everything that they had experienced, everything that they had ever thought, specifically because somebody who they considered to be an authority figure told them that they should not believe what it is that they believed. And just like that, they no longer believed it anymore. And that is the problem with people as a whole currently. People will accept whatever it is that is told to them if the right person says it. They will throw aside all of their own experiences and ideas because a study of some shit told them that they should think a different thing. And they defer all of their knowledge to these quote unquote experts who are supposed to know what it is that is happening, who are supposed to be able to tell you all of the things that you will think, because for some reason that has become their standard for information. Not because they sat down by themselves and came to the conclusion that peer-reviewed, double-blind fucking studies are the standard, the gold standard. It's because that's what they were told was. So they blindly accepted that, like they blindly accept every single other thing in this world. And people are so afraid to think their own thoughts, to have their own beliefs and ideas. People are so afraid to stand up for some shit that they think because other people might tell them that they are wrong, that they just go along with whatever, no matter how fucking stupid or ridiculous the shit might sound. Apparently, there are some scientists who say that there are some men who are actually truly women because they think it in their mind, and they go with all of this weird gender shit with the idea that gender is a different thing than sex, and that just because something looks like a man, it does not mean that it is a man. If that man tells you that they are a woman, then they are a woman, and that is somehow scientifically a fact, again because an expert told them that that was the case. And as long as you have that mindset, as long as you defer or outsource all of your thinking to some third party, then you are always going to be a slave. You are never going to have any control over your own destiny. You are never going to have any control over your own life. You're never going to be able to accomplish the things that you want to, because you are putting your ideas, your morals, your beliefs in the hands of other people who absolutely do not give a fuck about you. If you can't think for yourself, then you are never going to be able to craft the existence that you want, and you are never even going to believe in yourself, because and at the end of the day, that belief in yourself is the most important thing to be able to accomplish anything. Everything starts in your mind, but people are so willing to outsource their mind to everyone else that they are also unwittingly outsourcing control over their own life and destiny and all of their experiences that they have in this world. And it seems like a good thing to do, the idea that you obviously can't know everything. I can't know everything. Nobody can know everything. So there are people who study certain things and people who come to these certain conclusions that they deem to be facts and then tell them to you. But the problem with that is, A, you are assuming that the people who are telling you these things have your best interests at heart, not that they are trying to push some narrative or get you to believe a certain thing to serve some sort of other goal that is separate from what it is that's best for you. And B, you are learning slowly but surely to not be able to trust yourself, to not be able to trust your own eyes, to not be able to trust your own mind, your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your own experiences. Like the people with the Skittles, they threw out all of that shit because someone else told them that it was wrong and they just accepted it and went with it. And they're just letting other people rewrite their own realities. And that's how people wind up living in this world that is in no way useful or helpful to them because they have no common sense because they've not taken the time to cultivate it. They've outsourced all of that shit. So now you have people saying that addiction is some sort of disease, and there's all kinds of studies to back this up, but it's a nonsensical concept at its very heart of it. Addiction is a choice and followed by a habit. You make the choice to do something and you start fucking drinking, you start doing drugs, you start eating food, you start playing video game, whatever the fuck it is that you were addicted to. You were the one who made the choice to cultivate that addiction, that habit. It is not in your blood. It is not in your DNA. You can have parents. Both of your parents could be alcoholics and have done nothing but drink in front of you for their whole entire lives. And if you never pick up a bottle of alcohol, then you will never become an alcoholic because it is not a disease. There is no disease that can force you to go purchase and then do drugs. That's an insane concept. But people cling to this stuff because it's what they heard. This is a disease. And the problem is when you tell yourself it's a disease and when you go and follow along with all of these studies and experts, you are giving away your ability to change the thing because you believe that you have a disease and that you are suffering from something that is outside of your control. When at the end of the day, all of your actions are entirely within your control. Just like people label things eating disorders, and now you've called the fact that you eat too much some sort of ailment or affliction that you were suffering from, and you've made it something that's bigger than you and some sort of outside enemy that you are battling, when in reality it's really just your own self-control. You could label it whatever the fuck it is that you like, but that does not change what it is. But again, people point to these studies and people point to these experts to say, no, you have an eating disorder. You've developed an eating disorder. So therefore you have this disorder and you suffer from this, and it's something that you have to overcome in some other way than just eating less food. It's the same thing with people talking about obesity as a disease, and it's not just the fact that you eat too much fucking food combined with not exercising enough. And they quote these same doctors or they point to these same studies or these same peer-reviewed articles or whatever the fuck it is that you would like to call them, that say these things, that obesity is not just a result of you eating too much or not exercising. It's all of these other external factors. When the fact of the matter is, every single person in the world who eats less food will lose weight. Maybe it's more difficult for some people. Maybe some people will be more hungry than others. That's all well and fucking fine, but it does not change the point. It does not change the physics of it. The fact of the matter is, if you do not have an excess of food, your body cannot grow an excess of fat or an excess of muscle, because that's just how fucking things work. No one is so unique and special that they can override the laws of physics to make impossible, not physically, whatever the fuck, chemically impossible changes, because that's not how anything works. But people still believe this shit because they are told it, and they are told that they are supposed to listen to the doctors. They are told that they are supposed to listen to the scientists, so they do blindly. And they say that these people are the experts, but you've never heard of these fucking people. You don't know who the people are who are doing these studies. You don't know who's paying for the studies. You don't know their backgrounds. You don't know their intentions. You don't know their thought processes. You don't know where they went to school. You don't know what the school told them. You don't know any of this shit. You're just blindly accepting it as a fact, and all of that shit is leading people astray. It's a few years ago, there was a whole entire thing, all kinds of news and documentaries and whatnot about the opioid epidemic, with doctors prescribing pain pills to patients who did not need them, who were, because they were getting kickbacks from the pharmaceutical industry, and those patients were becoming addicted to the pills. So people understand this as a concept in the same way that everyone understands as a concept that giant corporations are quote unquote evil. Yet for some reason, they can't apply this thing when it comes to these mental health disorders. You can't apply this to your depression. You can't apply this to your anxiety, even though it would stand to reason that if doctors were prescribing people pills that they did not need for money, then you could extend that and say the psychiatrists whose sole job is to prescribe people with pills for as a diagnosis for some sort of random disorder that you can't really quantify or test for other than asking questions would have the exact same fucking motives. These people's sole job is pill distribution, but you think that they are only assigning or giving you pills because it's what's best for you. You can't apply the same thing from the pain pills to the mental health meds because it doesn't fit whatever it is that you believe. But any degree of common sense will tell you that if this industry that profits off of people being unhealthy, not curing people, but people being unhealthy, then it would also stand to reason that they can make the same sort of profit off of you being sad. Because while it's difficult to convince somebody that they're in pain, while it's difficult to convince somebody that they have fucking cancer or something, if they don't, eventually they're going to wise up and be like, maybe I don't have this thing. You can't really convince someone that they're sick if they're not sick. But what you can do is convince someone that a very common everyday thing is a result or a symptom of a disease and or disorder. If they tell you that your sadness is a result of something being wrong with you and you believe it, well, now you have subscribed to life to taking these pills and they are infinitely profiting off of you and everyone else who believes it. And you have all of these disorders of all of these different regular things. You're sad. You think about things too much. You don't always enjoy doing the exact same activities. Sometimes you focus. Sometimes you can't focus. You're easily distracted. You're in different moods all of the time. These are all just regular fucking things. But every single one of them is a symptom of one of these disorders. And every single one of these things has a corresponding pill to fix it. And if you were able to think for yourself, and if you were able to look past what the so-called experts are telling you, then you would see, at least open yourself up to the possibility that maybe these things are not what it is that they are being sold to you as, but you refuse to accept it because it's easier to just go along. Because when people such as myself say that this is bullshit, a bunch of people attack them. And most people are not built for that. They are terrified of criticism and they are unable to stand up for the things that they believe in, which is why they don't have any beliefs. It's easier to just go along with everybody. It's easier to just go along with the masses. It's easier to not rock the boat or challenge the status quo. But the problem with that is the masses are, by and large, incredibly mediocre. The status quo is failure. And if that's something that you're okay with, then by all means, keep popping your mental health meds and thinking that all of the Skittles taste exactly the fucking same. But if that's not something that you're okay with, if you actually want to accomplish something in life, if you want to achieve something more than most people achieve, then you have to be willing to accept that what most people think are wrong. And accepting that what most people think is wrong also means that you would have to accept that most people don't actually formulate their own thoughts. They are getting them from somewhere. Someone is handing them these beliefs, someone is handing them these ideas, and they are accepting them. So if what most people think is wrong and they have outsourced their beliefs, it would stand to reason that the places that they are getting these beliefs from are also misleading which is most likely the case, but at the very least, they are also wrong. So just because something says it's a fucking study, just because something says it's backed by experts or whatever the fuck it is that you would like to call it, it doesn't mean that it's actually a fact. It just means that they are telling you this thing in hopes that, like most people, you will believe in the quote unquote professionals and that what they say is blanketly right without questioning, excuse me. If a study came out tomorrow that said eating food was bad for you, about 70% of the population would starve to death because they will blindly follow whatever it is that they are told. And if you don't want to be one of those people, then you need to get comfortable challenging shit. And in getting comfortable challenging shit, you need to get comfortable with people not fucking liking you, because people hate when you challenge their beliefs because all they want is to think what is simple and go along. They don't want to think for themselves. And when you think for yourself, you are a threat to them. So to them, you are the enemy. But in reality, they themselves are not the enemy. They're kind of just symptom of the enemy. The enemy is the people who's telling you all of this misleading shit, all of this random ass Mandela effect shit, trying to convince you that you cannot trust yourself. All the people who are telling you that some men are actually women. It's all people trying to tell you you cannot believe your own eyes. And in not being able to believe your own eyes, you will not be able to trust your own mind and your own thoughts. If you can't trust your own mind and your own thoughts, you are never going to live a fucking life that you want to live. You are never going to be anything but another cog in the machine, another person in the crowd going along with everyone else, and everyone else is going nowhere.